Welcome to the John 3:16 Stories of Hope podcast, where we talk to people who have overcome addiction and alcoholism at John 3:16 Ministries. I'm your host, Lisa Fisher. Now let's hear another inspiring story from a resident or graduate of John 3:16 Ministries. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. We've got Brent Taylor with us right now, a familiar face to anyone at John 3:16 Ministries. Didn't you call yourself like the director of new guest, or you had a funny term about yourself when I came to the property for the first time last month? But you do a lot of meeting and greeting, don't you?
I do, but I want to reassure you that I was probably joking if I had director in there. I'm a director of nothing.
I know you were kind of poking fun at yourself, but just saying you were responsible for getting the guests there that day. Let's talk about what is your path to John 3:16 Ministries? I know your foot's in the door and you live there now, and your wife's there and your father-in-law, your family's there, but how'd you get there?
How I got there was I was born into a house that I didn't know I didn't belong there, but I didn't belong there. And I watched family use drugs and alcohol my whole life and use that as something I hated for a very long time. And then from there, I've suffered through some loss, personal loss, and then I lost a very close friend of mine, and that was the day of his funeral was the very first day I used drugs.
Wow, it was the thing that made you run to drugs. Was his death as a result of any type of drug or alcohol use?
Not of any official record, but I know it.
You're suspicious, yeah. Then why do you think that was the very thing you ran to, was the very thing that took his life?
Because I found comfort in my other friends, and my other friends were choosing to go down a path that I knew better, but didn't care anymore.
But if the people around you growing up used it as a coping mechanism, you thought, well, why not?
Yeah, well, I really disliked it. I really, really did. And then through years I'll just put it this way. I didn't just jump off at the deep end. I played football. I was a good kid. I made grades. I was kind of a class clown type. Definitely just had to get a rise out of everybody around me. Loved having that camaraderie on the football team. And then after football games, I wanted to hang out with the older crowd. I had popular family members that were seniors in 2005, which I was going to be a 10th grader, a sophomore. So, I got a fast lane to the cool group, real quick. So I just started drinking with them, Friday nights or Saturday nights. Well, really not Friday nights, but Saturday nights, secretively. And then from there, just hung out with them, and then that eventually became using drugs. And
tell me, what's your high school? Where'd you grow up?
Batesville, Arkansas.
Batesville. So just around the block from Charlotte.
Yeah, stone throw.
Yeah. And you were stoned when you threw, probably. So
yeah, I was busted.
Yeah. The first time with alcohol give you pleasure or pain?
Pain.
And why did you why do we do that? Why do we then keep seeking it, thinking this next time it's going to be pleasure?
Well, it was both. So the very first time I got alcohol, I got the honor roll in school.
Okay.
And it was a reward. But I also, at that time, found out that the guy that I called dad was not my biological father. So I got drunk for the very first time and got completely filled with rage.
It came out. We use it to mask things, but then there's an honest measure that comes out sometimes in substance abuse.
Completely no control, full of rage, full of anger. I hated my existence at that day, the day I found out that my dad was not my dad and that my entire life
was a lie.
My whole family lied.
Right. Did you feel like they all knew and didn't tell you, and you felt like you were on the outside of an inside joke?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's humiliating.
Yes.
That's what you felt, humiliation.
Yes.
How long did the rage last?
Until the day I got in a relationship with Jesus Christ. Let's just say 16 to 27.
11 years. So that was your entree into drugs and alcohol?
Yes.
Pills?
Yeah, it started out as alcohol. On my 18th birthday, I used cocaine, but I only used it once, so I didn't think of myself as a drug user. That was just something I did one time. And then, yes, after my friend passed away, I started using opiates in 2000, and I guess at 20 years old.
Was that the easiest thing you could get? opiates?
No, but it was the most effective. The easiest thing, I mean, I'm just going to be completely open. My dad was on meth my entire life up until like 2 years ago when he got sentenced to prison. So the easiest thing available was always alcohol and marijuana. That was always at our Thanksgiving. It was always at our house. It was there. But what I knew was going on in the bathroom behind closed doors was hard drugs, and that's not something that appetized me. And then all of a sudden, here comes OxyContin, and I took off with it.
So just because I'm not in that world, it's easy. If I broke my leg, I would go to my provider. I'd go to the emergency room, and I know they are a little more strict about it now. But that was always the way that people would get that class of drugs. At your point, are you just buying them at the the Jitney Jungle in Batesville on the street corner, buying them from somebody?
Yeah. So, yeah, and you'd have to do worse than break your leg. It's what I was getting into, and what I'd finally gotten into were fentanyl patches, and what you had to be dying from cancer to even really be considered for something like that. But I would go from anything. It's not that I never been prescribed an opioid in my life legally.
Never in your name. Yeah. Wow.
And I was on them for almost 10 years.
Okay, that is a detox, unlike a lot of people ever have to experience.
Right.
That's a painful detox.
Yes, absolutely, it is. But I also I consider myself a street pharmacist.
Right.
And I was not discriminatory. By the time I got here, I would use intravenously any drug I could get my hands on. So it became that bad.
I would say that my brother, who is a drug abuser, knew more about the chemistry of drugs than a local pharmacist. Like his recall, because he knew exactly how much to take of this to not go over the line. Of course, he did lose his life in some type of drug-fueled, situation because it gets out of hand, as you know. I mean, it did for you. How much of that did you understand the chemistry of the drugs?
I would go as far as to calculate bioavailability and even do cold water extracts for Tylenol on hydrocodone. I would do everything I could to make sure whatever I was doing was the most effective way.
Yes. Efficacious, as they say in the drug lingo.
Efficient.
Yeah, efficient, right. You wanted the best bang for your money. How are you paying for those drugs?
Well, I never had anything myself. In fact, every job that I ever had was just to pay for the things that I wanted to do. All the things that I needed in life were taken care of because
What do you mean by that?
Rent was paid, car was paid off, insurance paid,
Yeah.
cell phone paid. From time to time, I'd have to pay those myself, and then my family just got tired of not being able to get a hold of me, or me not show up, or whatever.
So they'd get you the phone, they'd get you the car,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I blame them, and they accepted that, and so in me giving blame to them for my problems, they felt bad enough that they would help supply the things that they thought I needed.
Anyone else in your family then with this type of drug usage or past?
Well, as far as siblings, no. The man that I idolized growing up, who I call Dad, he had suffered from addiction through his choices, and as well as my mom didn't get clean until I was 18.
So was he the meth user, the one you thought was your father?
Yes.
And is he incarcerated now?
He is currently incarcerated, but on work release, doing well in Saline County, Arkansas.
So did you serve time?
Never.
Of all the people we've talked to today, because we've been talking to several people for the podcast, I think you're about the only one that has a clean record. How did you avoid it? You're just sneaky?
I wouldn't say I'm exactly clean record. I got 2 DWIs a month apart.
Okay.
But now it's been so long that it's not on my
Expunged,
record.
yeah.
You're right.
Now, when you were busted for DWI, there was a time I thought they hauled your butt to jail and they took away your license. Do they still do that? Or is that?
Yeah, well, yes. One time I declined a drug test, which was an automatic DWI,
Right.
but I only had to stay at the jail until I got a ride.
Is that how it works?
Yes, and then the other one, it was a 12-hour holding a drunk take, which
Gosh.
I talked about escaping the whole time.
Yeah. So did you knew the man you idolized, you knew he was in the bathroom with a pipe,
Straw.
I guess,
Straw.
smoking, yeah, or whatever, right? Isn't there a smell throughout the whole, they talk about these meth houses that have a smell that the neighborhood smells. Is that not accurate?
My dad was He was raised in a good family, or at least I wouldn't say necessarily Christian, but I would say a family that had standard. So he held himself very well as far as controlling a diet, what he permitted himself to do in the house. There was a hangout shed in the backyard with a foosball table and all that, but never the smell of meth was ever around. There was no smoking meth in the house. That's the dirty way to do meth.
Okay. Yeah. But didn't that type of lifestyle attracts a really unfavorable group of peers? Didn't you start noticing, the guy out back doesn't have teeth and his cheeks are hollowed out and sunken in? Dad, are you doing meth back there?
Yeah. But as a form of income and somebody who paid for literally anything that I really wanted, you don't really say much.
Got it.
You just say one of your annoying friends are here. But that being said, I've known the number 2 guy at this ministry my entire life because of the circle that he was in was the same circle that I grew up seeing,
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow. You probably have the shortest distance to John 3:16 Ministries, probably of anybody there, except for him, maybe. But your ministry, because you are there greeting, you are a part of the staff, your family. I mean, you live there on the property. What's the furthest somebody's come to be a part of John 3:16 Ministries?
South Africa.
Is that right?
A guy named Johan.
Is that right?
Either that or Alaska.
Do you all keep up with some of those people?
I just haven't the ability to remember names of quite a few people.
Well,
just the stories. Good. Yeah, the extraordinary cases. Or if you're a real big troublemaker that happens to get to graduate, I always remember you. If you don't graduate, a lot of times I don't remember them. I don't.
Okay, let's talk about that path. Everyone we've talked to today, this is the 4th interview we're doing as we launch this podcast, have all had great success stories, but not everyone has a great success story. So to not graduate, what type of infraction would be attached to your name? You're just not doing the program, you're using drugs. I mean, what is it?
Well, there's a handful of reasons why people don't graduate, but this place is set up and designed for anybody that gets in has the ability to graduate. You just have to choose every day to do what it takes to be here.
Well, that's life, just
right.
To stay out of the local prison. That's what all of us have to do, but not everyone does. So what is it like? I never even thought of that, Brent, for the person that you have to confront to say, it's not working out. Who makes that call? Brian?
Well, he's the final as the director, but a group of peers are allowed to do that now. What we call senior instructors make that call.
That's a tough call. But one thing Brian Tuggle, the founder, said, and the director, that this isn't often just a one-time residence. A lot of them come back again and they need a second chance. And your arms are open for those people that say, you know what, I tried and it didn't work on my own.
Yeah, as long as they did what it took to prove that they had to graduate. If they didn't graduate, then we don't really look at them.
Okay, they don't come back. If they haven't graduated, they're not coming back?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, that's a tough place, I know, for everybody, because I know you really want to give these guys the chance to succeed. Do you know the numbers of how many you've graduated in the 20-plus years that John 3:16 has been in existence?
I believe the number is close to 2,600 at this time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How many can you accommodate on the property at any given time?
We've never turned a person away for not having room. So I would say with the amount of couches that we have enough room for about 500 people. I do say this, max capacity is probably 316 people.
And John 3:16 Ministries, that's cute. I like the way you've done that. Okay, so you came to the end of Brent Taylor realizing I've made some really poor choices. Who was the one that made the call? Because a lot of times it's family members. Who was it in your case? Because the man who influenced you, that you loved and adored, thought was your father, is incarcerated. I don't know your mother, what she's doing at this point. Was it her that made the call?
Yes. So at 18 years old, I was just graduating high school. James Ashley becomes a resident at John 3:16 Ministries. And my mother had been friends with him her whole life because my stepdad and my dad both were friends with James, who I knew as Tater. Well, when Tater was a resident, when James Ashley was a resident, he needed laundry detergent and cigarettes. And my mom made the decision, I'm going to go visit him on a Sunday and take him these things. And before I realized it, before she realized it, she's coming out here helping in children's church, watch babies and stuff for the. And a woman that was worried about passing a drug test at her job completely changed her life. It began to change mine, and I didn't even know it. Today, she is the director of a very great organization called Network of Community Options that helps people with special needs get in-home housing and nurse care. And there's group homes as well as personal homes that she helps these great people live lives to the fullest.
And where does
And
she live now?
Batesville, Arkansas
Oh,
still.
so you get to see her.
I do.
How proud is she of you?
Oh man, she tells everybody he wasn't always put together. You know, when I
Oh,
bring the residents by to talk and she testifies, just want to let you know he was terrible. He was very terrible sometimes. So what you're doing really works. And then she'll share with the ladies of the women's ministry that, you know, my life was bad. It's just an incredible story, but it was something that the Lord used to prepare me for.
so you're at 26 is when you came to the end of Brent Taylor and realized you needed Jesus? Or did you know Jesus in any way before
No,
then?
no, I didn't know Jesus. I thought I'd just hold myself up by the family standards in which I was taught by the Waugh family. And then I finally got to the point where I was no longer welcome to the house because I had stolen. And that's
Were you
your
stealing in order to buy more opioids?
yes, I stole. I directly stole pills, is what I
Okay,
did.
from pills. Okay,
Yeah, and they didn't belong to me. You know,
right,
shouldn't have done it.
right.
But I also shouldn't have been using drugs either. You know. But anyhow, from there, I kind of roamed around, ended up in Little Rock, Arkansas, and overdosed for the very first time alone in the back of an IHOP on International Pancake Day on University Avenue in Little Rock.
Stop it.
And I woke up on a gurney. They're rolling me out. I don't know if it was Narcan or a chest rub or the Lord breathing life into me. But I popped my head up and I say, where am I at? And they're like, well, you were dead just, 25 seconds ago.
You flatlined?
Well, yeah, I overdosed in the booth. Yeah.
Wow.
And I just jump up out of that gurney and took off running to my apartment. I don't know if you know the high-rise apartment complex behind the mall.
Yes.
I lived there on the 11th floor.
Okay, my daughter lived there on the 7th floor. It's now called
Something Plaza. It's Park Plaza Mall, but
it's
it was
Park Plaza Mall. Okay.
Village, maybe something Village.
There are two of them. There's one south and one north of the mall, and my daughter lived on the one on the north of there, and it was called the Summit House. And then the other one, I know which one you're talking about. It was south of the mall, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And you ran up University.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's a ways, let me tell you.
Yeah, it's a few blocks of hurry up and get home. I can't believe I just died by myself in Little Rock, Arkansas.
Wow. So who'd you call? I mean, what do you do at that point?
I called my dad. I was scared. I knew that he had dealt with drug addiction my entire life and asked him what I needed to do. And he told me that I needed to be around family that could help pull me out. He didn't understand opiates. He understood drugs that wouldn't kill you if you did that, but he didn't understand the opiate thing.
Opiates, yeah. And now, gosh, Brent, how dangerous it is. Now we have tightened things on the border, but fentanyl usage.
Right.
You're one and done.
Right. And this was 2015. So, it was right before fentanyl hit.
Right.
Hard.
Yeah.
And I still use drugs after that. But after that, I started buying Suboxone illegally and pairing that with Xanax and Klonopin.
So the Suboxone or whatever that is, isn't that given for people who have addict? Is that the one that's given
Yes.
as and not an antidote. I don't know what they would call that, but something like methadone was given to help people with addiction. But were you addicted to it?
Yeah, it's a pharmaceutical holding pen for people who claim they want off drugs.
Okay,
is
right.
exactly what that is. Now, on this side of the fence. On that side of the fence, it kept me from getting dope sick, and I really didn't want to be dope sick.
Okay. And then that period lasted. I mean, when did you come to the end where you thought, I got to have help?
All right. So I was living on my dad's couch. I'd been fired from 2 jobs where I had my own house with a roommate. I got fired from both jobs, told I needed to leave the house, and living on my dad's couch. And I decided that I was going to do what it took to try to kill myself.
Oh, my gosh.
And I put every bit of opiates I had in a spoon. I put a gram of meth in that spoon, and I put 12 hits of acid in that spoon, and I injected it into my bloodstream.
And you lived?
I did. I didn't want to, but I did. I knew that what I'd done was going to hurt me. And some conscience, Jiminy Cricket, the Holy Spirit, whatever it was at that time, told me to get up and walk to your mom's house, which she only lived about 3 miles away. And I walked to my mom's house, who was so tired of dealing with me. I'd gone through schizophrenic episodes there. I'd gone through all that stuff that goes with meth use. And I get there and I'm like, a dog's been following me since I left Dad's house. And she's like, there's no dog. There's no dog following you. And I said, if there's a dog outside, I need a ride to the hospital. If there's not, then I'm losing my stuff.
Were you in Batesville then at this point?
I was, and I was alone. You know, I went from a popular kid all the way to not having anyone that really wanted me around at all. And that's a sad state to live in, but nonetheless, my mom opened the front door, and there happened to be a dog there that did follow me. I didn't know if I was hallucinating or not, you know, and I was like, well, since it's there, I need a ride to the hospital because this is what I've done. And so she rushes me there. I lose a drug test. I failed a drug test for 11 narcotics.
My gosh.
And PCP being one of them. And the doctor's like, do you realize that you've failed a drug test for PCP? And I looked at him and I said, I don't know that I've used PCP, but I accept that it's there.
That spoon had a lot in it.
Yeah. What I called the Charlie Sheen cocktail.
How did you survive that? I mean, I know it was the Lord, but what do medical doctors say?
Well, they say that I had latent schizophrenia, where I went through episodes of schizophrenia that I'll never remember. What really happened?
Praise God.
Yeah, I get it, but I've been getting bits and pieces over the years of my sobriety and putting things together, and I got hit with Thorazine 2 times in one night because I told the nurse that I needed Xanax or I was about to panic and freak out, and she's like, that's not on your med list, and I said, well, that's okay, I'll take it anyways. And so anyhow, my spine, I got spinal meningitis. I didn't know that at the time. And my spine was on fire and I couldn't get cooled down. I got naked and laid on the floor in my room peacefully. And then whenever it didn't subside, I took off running down the hallway. So I was the guy in the psych ward running around naked, unfortunately.
Yeah. Was that in the Batesville Hospital?
Yes, at Stepping Stone, the third floor of White River Medical Center.
Wow.
Yeah.
I bet they remember you there.
I hope not, but I do hope that they know that somebody can be clothed in their right mind again.
Well, so that was the that was
the cheese slid off the cracker and under the table was the breaking point. Something I don't share often is that when I was suffering from spinal meningitis and they were figuring all this stuff out because I was incoherent and unable to share that, as I slipped deeper and deeper away through having this spinal problem, my spinal fluid was choking my brain out. I lost the ability to speak. I didn't know my own name. I couldn't walk. Was that
from the overdose of the drugs?
Yeah, the acid, injecting acid.
Wow.
Anyhow, I just woke up one day. I didn't just wake up. What I thought was a nurse woke me up, and I looked over across the room, and I looked across the room, and I said, Miss Debbie, what are you doing here? And she said, how are you able to talk? And I said, I know who you are. I know how to talk. I mean, you know, I'm 27 years old. I completely told her who I was, and she said, just yesterday you couldn't even put a word together. And how are you able to talk? And I said, what am I doing alive? And she said, I can't believe that your mom's not here. And I said, well, the nurse just woke me up. And she said, there was no nurse. And I said, no, I was just woke up. They said, you got to wake up. You're not supposed to die like this. And she said, there was no nurse. I said, there was somebody that just woke me up. You're not supposed to die this way. And I couldn't get over the fact that I was woken up by somebody that wasn't even in the room. And I don't share that often, but it was something that at that point, I knew I was not supposed to die a drug addict.
Praise God.
And I did everything it took. The next week, I tried to get into John 3 and didn't get in because I shot up 5 minutes before I got picked up to come do my...
Do they drug test you when you first get there?
No, but I couldn't pay attention to anyone. I was
you
staring.
You weren't coherent.
I was staring at a camera the entire time. Thought that they were watching me. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Paranoid. Yeah. The Clintons and the Russians had everything to do with it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know.
And then at what point did you finally get in?
The next Sunday,
That's when you could only come in on Sundays? There was a time you all only had Sunday admission, right? And
Yes,
now you open it during the week.
absolutely. Even with who my mom knew didn't get me in at that time. It's a lot easier to get in now, but at that time, I'd seen guys not get in after trying to get in 7 times in a row. So it was full. I got in. I was on a couch for my first week, and I had to do everything it took to act normal long enough to get my own room.
You had to detox, though. What did you do for the DTs?
So I was coming off antipsychotics, antidepressants, opioids, and I laid in a bed and didn't tell anyone. I shook all night long and worked just like everybody else during the day for about 3 weeks. It was terrible. I was one of the ones blessed with Weed Eater Crew right out of the gate in July
In Batesville, in Charlotte, yeah.
in Charlotte,
Yeah,
Arkansas.
that's about 190 degrees of humidity.
Time to grow up.
Yeah, and you needed it.
Did.
When did you meet Jesus?
I met Jesus, what I say is July 17th of 2017. That's on my brother's birthday. I prayed for salvation every night my first few weeks here, every night. But the night that I believe that I completely surrendered was on my brother's birthday in 2017.
Praying for salvation. He heard you, but your heart hadn't yielded, you think?
I always thought of myself as being too smart, was unleadable. I couldn't be led. I was led by me. If I couldn't do it, then nobody else
You
should.
were on the throne, as we say. You were on the throne.
Yeah,
And didn't have room for Jesus. And then you came to the end,
right.
which was your beginning.
It was. I knew that whoever was able to help me had to be better than me. And I'd finally started reading. I'd finally been broken enough. I finally came to the end of myself to where I said, Lord, I need you, and I can't do it without you.
Where's Tater in all this?
James Ashley, he's standing back in hopes that I genuinely reach out to Jesus instead of reaching out to an old friend or to a family member, a family friend. So he's letting it happen the way it was supposed to.
Wow.
But he would come by for about 5 minutes, just long enough for me to be like, man, I'm so glad I know him. I'll do what it takes to be here, and then I was one of those guys blessed with getting in trouble so many times out of the gate. I should have been kicked out of here 28 times now, probably. But the Lord provided the grace and mercies I needed for those seasons for me to grow.
Brent, as you raise your children, I know you're about to have another one, a prayer that many parents have is that our children will get caught, and they'll be caught in their folly so that they do recognize that they have no control and that it's all God's plan for their lives. And you had to get caught enough for you to realize 28 times or whatever your number is, for you to realize that. Fell in love with Jesus after that.
Fell in love with Jesus after being here for just a few weeks. After 3 months of being here, I knew I wanted to be an instructor. I knew I wanted to be a pillar here. Good. And that if James Ashley could do it, I knew I could. And if someone, Lord Jesus Christ, could use Brian Tuggle to be the director, then I knew I could. So I'm doing everything that I can to help the next guy, to become more, to reach more, to be the best servant that I possibly can. And that's been my goal since I've been here. He's provided everything that I've ever wanted and needed to be here. So why leave?
It's your home now.
It is my home. I've never been more satisfied in my entire life. At times I do need to be reminded, but it's such a blessing to come in here, have nothing, and then now I have a Lord who is perfect. His name is Jesus, who loves you. I have a wife who loves me. I have a son that I can raise and teach, and I have a daughter on the way. And then I have I've got over 1,000 brothers, graduates of this ministry. My closest friends and brothers are the instructors here at this ministry. I know them, they know me, and we go to battle for each other every day. And I'm proud to be right beside them.
Your story is a beautiful one.
Yeah, thank you.
That God wrote your story.
Yeah.
And you let him. God's written all of our stories, but sometimes we stop and think we have better plans. And you submitted your life to him. It's obvious.
Absolutely. I fought my entire life to not have a Lord.
Right. Wow. And look at you. You're just as much a Jesus freak as the rest of us.
Lord.
And
Amen.
I love it.
Praise the Lord.
That's right. I love it. Hey, thanks for doing this podcast. Great job. And you're number 4 in our podcast lineup that we've started. Let's just pray that this will go to the ears that need to hear it. It may be a family member. It may be for that Brent Taylor listening wherever he is. And it may not be as sensational as your story, but without him, we're nothing.
Well, the Lord be with that guy wherever he's at. And thank you so much for your role.
My pleasure. I'm
Thank you.
humbled that you would even allow me to be a part of this to help tell the stories.
I'm excited for the lives that you're going to help these men here touch. I really am.
Thanks for doing this tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for the John 3:16 Stories of Hope podcast, highlighting the community at John 3:16 Ministries in Charlotte, Arkansas. Be sure to share the episode. If you need more information, hop on their website, john316thecure.com, or find them on social media.